Joining us now from Philadelphia is former Assistant U.S. Attorney Fred Tecce. He's handled SEC cases just like this. He's also defended publicly traded companies on these issues. Fred, obviously, this is not the beginning of the problems for Ken Lewis and for Bank of America. This is just the latest development. But what kind of case do you think Andrew Cuomo has here?
Well, I'll tell you, Julie, I think he obviously has a strong case. I mean, they've put together a detailed complaint. I haven't had a chance to read it as much as I would like to. And they make serious allegations about fraud and misuse of money and misstatements and lying to shareholders. So, I mean, it's, you know, it's interesting to me whenever I see kind of what I perceive to be a crossover between the political arena and the legal arena. But a guy like Andrew Cuomo knows that you can't go making statements like the ones you heard today and then not really be able to back it up. So, I mean, I think you're going to see some serious charges. I also think that the deal that was entered in today with the SEC is not going to help Bank of America going forward. I mean, $150 million in the grand scheme of what we're talking about is not a lot of money, and I guess BOA will spin it like, look, it was a small amount to pay, and so we settled the case. But at the end of the day, they were fraud allegations. If you read the SEC complaint, which I've read, they talk about malicious statements by the bank, and so the bank settles to that stuff, and we still have to wait to see if the judge is going to approve it. As noted earlier, this judge turned down a $33 million settlement, told the government to go back and get some more money. And he also raised issues as to why there weren't more serious fraud allegations and why individuals weren't charged. Right. So to get back to the answer to your question, it's still going on, and it's going to keep on going.
Fred, what do you make of the government's decision just to name Ken Lewis and Joe Price in this suit and not to name the company or other individuals?
Well, at this point, I mean, I can tell you as a former federal prosecutor, what you do is you start these cases out, and it's a civil case. Remember, this AG case is a civil case by the New York Attorney General. It's civil fraud. It's not a crime. But what you do is you kind of start this, and you get into the process, and you get into what they call discovery. And as documents come across, you know, you can always amend your complaint to charge additional individuals. That's the first part. The second part is that I understand that they kept this guy out because they felt that he had nothing to do with it and wasn't involved, which I think is a smart thing to do, given that, you know, one of the things the government has to do is make sure that investors have some confidence and some faith in who's running the show over there at BOA.
Now, you talked about the SEC complaint and that $150 million is the settlement here. What do you think is hoped to gain monetarily from the individuals named in this suit?
Well, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, it's you in general in a civil. You mean in the Cuomo suit? In
the Cuomo suit, right? What are they going to get from
right.
Ken Lewis and Joseph Price?
Well, first of all, putting aside the fact that these guys probably aren't judgment-proof, I mean, I'm sure they have some assets, but also, you know, these executives and these directors and these officers carry errors and omission insurance policies, serious policies. And so, you know, given that there are fraud allegations and fraud insurance wouldn't cover fraud or intentional acts, I mean, if it eventually is shown that there's some type of errors or omissions, I'm just talking about in general, then there would be money to collect for the taxpayers or for the shareholders from the insurance companies. And it starts. I mean, once these guys get sued, they're going to sue their auditors. They're going to say, well, they should have told us. They're going to bring in their lawyers. They should have told us.
Gotcha.
So it's, it's the lawyer. As I always say, it's like the Lawyers Fair Employment Act. Here it goes.
All right, Fred. Fred, thanks for coming in on short notice. We appreciate it. Fred Tecce, former Assistant U.S. Attorney, now with McShea Tecce.